last thing. Let's clap. Let's clap. His stuff is really incredible. So you should check it out. So thank you guys for being here. I'm going to introduce. We're gonna have more of a couch sesh this time around. We have Aaron Anderson. Is a freelance photographer. I'm just gonna let him intro himself and just, Aaron, tell us a bit about yourself, how you got to where you are, etc. Please do it into the mic so that we can watch you later.
Yeah, totally. Well, like Jeremy said, I'm a freelance photographer. I've been full-time for about 2 years. I mean, my journey, I think like a lot of creatives, is not really direct. Where from the age of 16 to 24, I've had 19 different jobs. Some of them were good, some of them were terrible. And I think along the way, you kind of just start to realize you don't function like everybody else. And so in that process, I actually ended up buying my wife a camera for her birthday, and then I took it. And after that, I started taking pictures, and I remember I bought a reflector, and it blew my mind. And then I bought a speed light, and that changed my life. And then started doing other things, and eventually ended up going to school in San Francisco at the Academy of Art. And then after the Academy, I went as a retoucher, and it just kind of took off after that. I wouldn't say, I think Katie and I talked about this a little bit, I never really had this direct path where I was like, oh yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to do photography. It was just something that I became passionate about and started doing all the time, and I couldn't stop doing it, so it turned into a job, which I think is kind of a blessing of it all. But, so that's me.
Yeah, what have been some of the, as you've grown, how long have you been a freelancer?
So I've been full-time for 2 years. I've been freelancing, I guess you could say, about 5 years. But full-time, just doing this only, it's been 2 years. So.
What are some of the key things that have made you successful in your eyes? It sounds like that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think the first thing is defining success well. And in our culture, a lot of times we're talking about success as money, and how much money you're making, how many figures in your bank account, which is great. I mean, I like money just as much as the next guy. But for me, when I wake up every morning and I either take pictures or I edit pictures or I do something involved with that. And 2, I see my family every day. I take walks with my kids. And photography affords that. It allows me to be a part of my kids' lives and use my life and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, obviously, the pressure to make money, I have a house and all that kind of stuff that I have to pay for. But that journey of success has been really interesting because it's kind of evolved as time has gone by. I think when you first get in, it's make money, make money, make money. But then you realize, wow, I can do what I love for a living. And I've talked about that a lot with my wife, is that just, man, if I look back and say, this is what I did, I took pictures and we made beautiful things, that's success to me. And the money, I think the money comes when you're doing what you love and you're pushing hard and creating, the money comes. And it's an interesting evolution in that way where you just kind of keep going. And that kind of leads into the point of you just have to be willing to fail all the time. And fail again and again and again, but show up again and again and again. And if you love what you're doing, and you are passionate about that, you are ready to make something else. And even though the last one wasn't a success or it wasn't what you wanted it to be, you made something. You made something else, and you kept going until it got a little bit better. There's a video by Ira Glass who talks about when you first start, your taste is what gets you in, and how it's what keeps you going. But at first, you know that it's not what you want it to be. So you have to keep pushing. You have to be willing to keep pushing and keep pushing. So I'd say that's it. I mean, in the beginning, it's just the ability to show up and say, I'm going to make something regardless of what happens.
So when did the gap start closing where, like in that video they talk about, you just keep making and making and making, and you're like, you know that it's not like what it could be or what it should be or what you want it to be, like how long of a, I don't know, what are we talking about? And you've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm a freelancer in year 1, I'm wondering, like, how long do I have to just freaking keep hacking away and failing? I know you never stop failing, but like, how long did you like keep hacking away until like those like big clients rolled around, or like you hit creatively, you hit a place where you were like half satisfied at least?
Well, I think that's going to vary based on the creative, obviously. But I mean, I can tell you that in school, and I think this has continued into my career, I was go to school all day. I would work until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd get back up at 6, and I'd start again. That's not that different from my schedule right now. So I'll work from 8 to 6, take a break from 6 to 10, and work from 10 to 2. So if you're doing that all the time, you can't help but get better. And I would say it took a good couple of years just to feel confident in Photoshop, which is a lot of what I do, and then a good couple of years to feel confident in photography. So I think it's going to vary. I mean, I don't know if there's a magic answer to that.
Yeah.
I think that if you keep pushing, you'll know. You'll know when things start to change. You'll see a difference in your work. You'll see a difference in the way things are. And if you're continually learning and continually growing as an artist, you'll see things start to evolve and change. I know with me, it was a lot of lighting, a lot on the Photoshop side, and then just learning. And that's where that failure comes in. When you take a picture, and you come home, and you say, man, this is not good. This is not class. And then you recognize how to change that, and that's really the recipe. Is you go out, you try it, it didn't work, and then you change it and you try it again. And it's those little kind of micro tweaks that push you forward. So I don't know if there's a recipe for how long it takes, but
A while.
it's a while. Yeah, yeah. And again, it's just that it's the showing up. It's the showing up. It's no matter what, like you gotta keep coming back. I think that's the biggest thing, and that's why it's so important to love it. Is that you have to keep coming back, regardless of it. So.
What you said you went to school? What now that you're in the thick of it, what didn't? There's a whole lot that they didn't teach you. What are some of those big things that like, hey guys,
Yeah.
this is important.
I think there's a couple things. I mean, these are I think these are topics within each industry right now. Is that you're really unprepared for business when you get out of art school. Art school it's a bunch of people who are, in photography anyways, we're moving and awing over lights and learning how to print. And it's like, that's good, except for when you get out, you have no idea what you're doing. So, in a way, it feels like we should be forced to take business classes full time and then figure out how to take photography classes full time on top of that schedule, because that's basically what you're going to be doing when you get out. It's really interesting because we're photographers. We're kind of emotional, insecure people, just as artists in general, and yet we're forced to be business people. And that, it's a steep learning curve coming out, because being an entrepreneur and being a photographer are two totally different things, but they have to be married together in order for you to make it a commercial photography. So I think that's something they don't even really talk about. Is just, hey, when you get out of school, you're probably going to be doing business and marketing 90% of the time, and you're going to be shooting 10% of the time. So it's really that, again, it's the passion that has to keep you going. Say that hey, so at some point in time, I'm going to take pictures of something after I call all of these people and send them emails and marketing promos and that kind of stuff. So I think that's one thing. The other thing, and this is a hard one, is they don't tell you you're not ready to work when you get out of school, that you literally don't have the experience, that no one's going to hire you, and that really what you're qualified to be is an intern. And that's a tough realization for a lot of art students as you get out, and it's like, wow, I actually don't know half of the things that I'm supposed to know in order to get a client, or to land a job, or to place a bid, or to give an estimate, or any of those things. So, I mean, starting early on for my career in school, I had internships out of the gate, and was immediately working like a mule for free all the time. And that really helped to prepare me, where a lot of kids, they're going through art school and they get out and it's like, how do you do an estimate? How do I get a producer? How do I get a permit? How do I do all these things? And they don't even know that that stuff is happening. And so they're having to learn that. And it's like, man, I just spent $100,000 and I get to go be an intern. So I remember having a conversation even just like a couple of months ago. This kid called me, and he had gone to 4-year school for photography, and he was confused because he didn't have a job. And I had to tell him that you probably should go get an internship. You should probably work before you try to get clients. And he wanted to work for Adidas, which, you know, he doesn't want to work for Adidas, but it's like, you don't just up and walk into Adidas and say, I'm a photographer, I went to school for 4 years. They would just kind of laugh you out of the building. So it's one of those interesting things where we go into debt, I think, more and more as much as most students do, but we don't come out with a job. We come out with the ability to take some pictures and no knowledge about the industry. So I think that's the scary part, and I'm hoping, it seems like to me, there are people looking at that and addressing that, and I think for the people that kind of are in the know now and hopefully learning that earlier on, they are able to start closing them down earlier and taking some business classes, taking some marketing classes, so that you're not just flapping in the breeze once you get out there. So.
How did you go then from interning, like what was that whole deal? Intern, you know, you worked for the agency, but then like you got your, you know, the call from like a Google and a Coca-Cola and then Tazo, like that doesn't just happen.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing in this industry is that it's connection based. You're constantly meeting people. That's what you do. So like my first job out of school was at a big retouching agency that I didn't even know existed until I was referred to them. And that's continually been the case. And anyone that I talk to, that's the case, is that you meet people, you grow those relationships, and you continue to seek those relationships and put work out. So even now, I'm in the middle of printing promos. I'm in the middle of making phone calls, sending emails, finding art directors, creative directors, all of those things that the people that hire me. But it's something you have to seek out, and it's the same thing as those internships. You go get an internship, and then you meet 12 people, and of those 12 people, you need to follow up with those people, and then you meet 12 more people. And that's really what a career looks like in photography. It looks like networking. It looks like constantly knowing people.
What would you say to the person that's like incredible at their craft, and one of the reasons is because they're introverted, extremely introverted, and they're so creative, and they hate the idea of selling and marketing and whatnot, but then there's the desire to like, but I want to be able to like make money and not just be a struggling artist. Like, what would be your advice? What would you do? What would you tell that person?
I mean, I guess I would say join the club. I mean, there's not a lot of us who got into it because we were super extroverted. I mean, I'm a little more extroverted and I've been in some fields like that, but it's something you just kind of have to get through for a little while. And then once you start being rejected and start failing and start calling people who don't want to talk to you, you get used to it. I mean, it's something that you really have to get used to. I was talking to some guys last night about how being an artist is kind of like, it's kind of like walking around naked. But then you walk up to people and say, hey,
you like?
What do you think? What do you think of it? something that most people want to do. It's not something that most people are like, yeah, that sounds like a great career to me. So that's kind of how it feels. I mean, we are all creating something because of something inside of us. We're making something that we believe in. We're making something that we want. Yeah, I mean, we want people to see it, but we don't really want people to tell us how they feel about it necessarily. So it's kind of stepping over that hump of saying, you know what, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to show it to people. And in this day and age, you don't really have an excuse not to. The barrier of entry is super low for photography, which is awesome. It makes it a lot harder, but it's also easier than ever to reach people who can hire you or want to hire you or want to see your work. Whereas before it was really expensive, it was hard. You had to print, you had to mail, you had to ship, and all these different kinds of things. Now you're a tweet away, you're an Instagram away, you're a Google Plus or whatever it is that you want to use. So I would say, in a way, yes, it's very hard, but also it's easier than it's ever been. So that should be encouraging to people. You don't necessarily have to walk through a door. You can send a tweet, which I think is a lot more, I don't know, comforting at first before you start calling people and walking up.
So speaking of being naked, let's be real. And what are some like big mistakes that you've made, and like what is even something that currently is like a struggle, or is just like, you know, just sucks. You suck at, you know, like be vulnerable with, you know, what, like where you come. Because I think the one thing we want to eliminate is any like view of, you know, any of the people here like being on a pedestal. It's like the struggle is real for everyone.
I think that for me, from the beginning, like any of the big mistakes, most of the big mistakes I've made have been just like fear-driven mistakes, where I'll shy away from something just because I'm afraid of it. I remember I went to a snow sports convention called SIA, and the goal was to go in there and show a portfolio. So I would walk up to a booth and you would ask for someone in marketing and then show a portfolio. And I remember I walked around for like 2 hours in circles and just was so petrified of walking in there and showing my work. And I think that even at this point in my career, it's still scary. It's still something where you're like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I don't think it's gonna be good. I don't know. And I know, like, I can think of at least 3 or 4 times when I just don't even submit work, or I won't show work, or I'll just say, it's okay. They wouldn't like it anyways. And I can only imagine kind of what I've missed out on because of that. But like on the hopeful side of that, I think like we have an ad in a Dragon Alliance ad running in Surfer Magazine right now, and that ad came from SIA, and it was after walking around for like 2 hours of just being totally scared and walking up to the first person saying like, "Hey, you're looking at my stuff." But I know, especially early in my career, I can think of at least a couple of times when I just said, and I came up with great excuses. They were always great excuses, like, I don't need to. I'm gonna be moving to do this soon, and it's not a big deal. But I always had a great excuse as to why I shouldn't show some of my work or show what I do or whatever it is. And then it's kind of like this nice little safe place, right? I have this collection of images on my hard drive that I look at, and I'm just like, these are so good, and then no one ever sees them. So I would say, even still, there's in the back of my head, before I make a phone call, before I send an email, before I go into a meeting, it's usually the first thing that pops in is they're not going to like it. They're not going to like my work. They're not going to like what I do. And it's really, it's a devastating thing, especially when, as artists, we're alone a lot. So I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, retouching something, or sending out an email, and it's like, they're not going to like this. It's not very good. I mean, I still, my stomach sinks every time I send a project to somebody. And it's like, oh man, I've never failed a project. This is it. This is the first one, So yeah, I would say for me, a lot of it is just my own inner critique of just saying constantly, no, you're not good enough, or you're not going to make it. Which I think is just kind of a struggle. You know, it is hard. Constant struggle with that. So.
Cool. Well, we're gonna open it up for Q&A. Just whatever you're thinking, whatever questions you have for them, let loose. They'll be super helpful for everyone here as well.
Looking back at it's always, like you mentioned earlier about just growing in your art the more you do it. Looking back at your old work, are there some projects or some pictures that you just really kind of cringe at when you see?
So one of the first composites that I did, this is going to sound crazy, you guys are going to think of it. One of the first composites that I did, and a composite, just kind of backing up, a composite is basically taking a bunch of pictures and making one picture out of it, and that's what I specialize in doing in Photoshop. I don't even know why we did this, but I took a picture of a girl holding like a lollipop, and then composited it into a field, and then changed the sky purple, and then I made the lollipop really big. Yeah, the confused look on your face is very telling of the project. And everything was wrong. The lighting was wrong, the angles were wrong, it didn't look right at all in any way, shape, or form. And those are the type of things that you look back on and you're just like, holy smokes, I mean, it's in those moments that you're like, I probably shouldn't be a photographer. Like, I'm pretty sure that other people are much better than I am at this, so I probably should stop. But yeah, I guess it's in the midst of that. You're like, well, I guess if I keep learning how to make the lollipop look correct, then I'll eventually get it. So yeah, for sure. I mean, I always have kind of crazy ideas, and I just end up doing them, and some of them look cool, and so just don't.
Did you do a lot of projects on your own? Because I've heard that specifically, I guess, for photography, probably videography as well, like doing your own projects, starting off since you really don't have, a lot of time.
Yeah, I would say not just starting off. Most of the time, I have at least 3 personal projects going. I think that's super important for 2 reasons. The first one is you need to shoot what you want to get paid to do. A lot of times what we're getting paid to do is not necessarily what we want to shoot. I know last year I did like 3 book covers, some pharmaceutical ads. None of that stuff is in my portfolio because honestly, I don't really want to get hired to do it anymore. If that job comes, then great. That's a good way to pay your bills. But you need to shoot the work you want to do, and that will be consistent throughout your career. I don't think you'll talk to a photographer, no matter how far along in their career they are, who's not doing personal work all the time. I think not only is it good to get the work you want to get, but it's also to grow. So if there's something new that I want to try, or some new technology, or new lens, or new lighting, or whatever it is, I mean, we'll spend hours. Like for instance, we have the show in the Fine Arts Center right now called Periphery. That lighting was developed for a personal project in the studio by myself in the middle of the night. And that's something that would have never come about if it wasn't for that. So I think it's invaluable. You have to be out there pushing yourself to learn more and do more. And that really only comes in personal projects because clients are going to hire you for what they see.
I know you said that, which I can kind of relate to, and I have friends that it's harder when you get out of school being unprepared for the business world. And I know I definitely struggled with closing that gap when I first graduated. But I guess what I'm asking is, all in all, do you think school is helpful for you? Do you think it refined your skills, or, I mean, hindsight is 20/20,
Yeah.
But do you have any regrets from going to school, or do you feel like overall that really helped develop your skill set? I kind of have mixed feelings about myself, so I don't really know what the answer is, but
I think when we went in, my wife and I, we talked about it beforehand, and said there was a specific amount of debt that we wanted to get into and a specific amount that we wanted to avoid. I think that was school. It's going to kind of vary from person to person. The thing about commercial photography that's hard is that there's a lot of gear involved. So there's tons of lights and things that you don't really have access to outside of school. So everything I did in school was geared towards commercial photography. We were in the studio all the time. We were using big light setups, big cameras, and all that kind of stuff. So in that way, it was very, very beneficial. Any class that I took that didn't have to do with photography was not beneficial at all, in my opinion. So I went into school with the intention of dropping out and did not graduate. And that was totally on purpose. And when I talked to my counselor, I said, I don't want anything that doesn't have to do with photography. I want to shoot all the time. That's all I want to do. So, yeah, I think it was really beneficial in that way.
That's a smart idea.
Well, and I think that the problem is that culturally we feel very much pressured to graduate.
Right.
Right. If you go to school and you don't graduate, that's a problem. It's like, oh, you didn't get your degree, or well, I'm going to go back to school and get my degree. And I've had a few conversations with people, and they say, oh, I'm going to go back to school and get my degree. I'm like, why?
Why?
That's
what I say
well,
now.
I just feel like I need to finish for me. You know,
Right.
It's like, I guess, but maybe spend some time doing something else outside of that. So I guess I was sort of creating my own hybrid program from the beginning, and I think I hope that schools start to help with that. Like,
Yeah, I very much had to kind of do the same thing when I was at school, tell them that I want classes in this type of thing or otherwise. And that was kind of weird in the university setting.
Yeah.
They're like, well,
no.
you need
Yeah,
ethics
yeah.
and you need 4 years and $100,000 and you're just like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, well,
Let's get real.
And that's the other thing too, is that one, you're paying them.
You're paying. Yeah.
They work for you. That's important to remember, but it's hard to understand when you're just getting out of high school. So if you tell them you want to do something and the prerequisites match, they don't have a choice. You know, and I think that's an interesting thing to talk to people about is that, you know, English was not a prerequisite for shooting 101. I need to know how to speak English, yes, but if you show me how to use the camera and take, you know, lighting, there is no prerequisite for that course. And they were adamant that, oh no, but you need to take this class too. I don't think it's a prerequisite. I mean, there were times when they had to go to the superiors to tell them, he wants to do this, what do I do? You know?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, hindsight is 20/20 too. Like, I've also been to a couple different colleges, and
Right.
I was older, and I was married, and so I think those things come into existence, and I think that is a little bit on us as the next generation of people saying, like, hey, you don't have to rush into school just to get a degree. If this is what you want to do, what's the best career path for you? How can we get you into a place that's going to help you succeed as opposed to just college for all kind of thing.
Right.
So hopefully I don't sound too anti-college. I am slightly anti-college, but, you know.
Well, it's interesting to hear your perspective, because I'm always kind of curious to hear other people's perspectives that have come to art school. It's nice to hear.
Also.
On it a little bit with like different, like you said, but when you're trying to generate new work, do you have strategies or you're trying to get with the art director into either branding, so like how getting into the brand like teams and if you're working with contractor needs, or are there like set things you're like, okay, I got this, like I walk into like a portfolio, like what do you have kind of section that you do, or ideas that have worked against too?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, I think that's something kind of in the beginning I was talking about the business side of things. Like, you need to have a business plan and understand what you're doing from the get-go. The first thing I think to understand is who's hiring you, and also is your brand a good match for their brand? Because sending off 100 promos to agencies who are all lifestyle photography for me would be a terrible position because no one's going to hire me. So I guess it's kind of a B3 prompt. I don't know. It's a number of prompts, but I will start So I do use a list called Agency Access. Agency Access gets you basically all the agencies in the country with a list of their art directors and creative directors. But then it's kind of on you from there. So you can do by city, you can do by brand. So like for instance, Nike hires X number of agencies in X number of deals. You would know more about that probably. So then you want to see who does it, who does the work, what work they've done. And that's an interesting thing too, because sometimes they say they work for Nike and it's like they did this email subtext one time for Nike. Which is great, but they're probably not going to hire me to do the subtext for their. So once you find that, you kind of quantify them, like, hey, this is who I should be marketing to. Then you're going to want to find the creative directors, the art directors, the art buyers. So art buyers and art directors, they're pretty much the same thing. Creative directors are going to be usually above them. Creative directors are really busy. They're very hard to get hold of. Art directors are a little bit easier to get hold of. Usually I'll start with an email. So an email blast or a personal email, and I'll always include imagery of some kind. So one image, two images. It's got to be fast, and it's got to be impactful. So pick your strongest and send it, and try to get in front of them. Track those emails. You need to know who opened them. And if they open them, that's important. That's good to know. Usually what I'll do then is I'll use the opens and I will create a direct mailer to those people. So I'll say, first I found the agency, I made sure they were right fit for my work, then I found the art director, then I sent out an email blast, I double checked to see who opened it, then I did a print promo, I sent out the print promo, then I follow up with a phone call, try to get in and show a portfolio. You're probably not going to walk in somewhere and show a portfolio. So yeah, that's kind of the, I guess, the steps that I take to get there. Yeah, and if you're ever traveling somewhere, like I'm getting ready to go to San Francisco for meetings, send out an email, let people know you're going to be there, and try to show your portfolio. Again, it's really just about showing your work. The more people see your work, and the more they see you. The other thing is that if they've opened your email, that you need to understand it's important. But they don't unintentionally open emails. It's like they have plenty of time. They delete stuff all the time. I mean, like the open rate. I think the industry average that I've seen, like open rate is like 2.2% or something. So you gotta figure you need to send out a lot of emails before you can get look at your stuff and get responses. So don't be discouraged about that either, and keep trying little tweaks. If it's like subject line is important, content is important. But yeah.
Well, thank you, Aaron.